Hello, everybody. My name is Bennett Tchaikovsky here at the accounting professor on YouTube. I'm also a full-time instructor at Irvine Valley College. I'm here with Steven Grinberg. We did an introduction video just moments ago. We're now here to kind of continue talking a little bit more about the enrolled agents exam. So kind of recap from the first video, when we are applying to become an enrolled agent, there's no educational requirement. You just need to get a tax preparer identification number. You take and pass the enrolled agents exam. You then pay a further fee, and then you become licensed as an enrolled agent by the Internal Revenue Service. There is also, in order to maintain that license, you also have to complete continuing professional education. But let's just talk about the different parts of the enrolled agents exam, and let's talk about the individual portion first, right? So if I'm looking to become an enrolled agent, if this is something I want to do, and I'm going to start preparing for the individual portion of the enrolled agents exam, obviously I could purchase a enrolled agent review course, say from Surgent, from Gleim, or from one of these other providers, or I could come to Professor Grinberg's or to an Irvine Valley College individual tax income class. And so tell us a little bit about like how you teach the tax courses. Like how do you teach individual tax at Irvine Valley?
What we do is I teach it off PowerPoints.
Okay.
So PowerPoints and tax return forms and IRS publications.
Okay.
So I teach you the law and I give you examples. And the instructional material, like I said, is PowerPoints that cover different parts of the law. And I also use IRS publications and I use examples to teach the different concepts within the law for individuals.
And just to also kind of clarify, as of right now, we're doing I've had these conversations with other people before if you've watched the channel, and there's certain classes that are in accounting that really, in my opinion, need to be taught live. Again, this is my opinion, and one of those is tax, the other being intermediate accounting. And I guess from you're hosting these meetings, like I know this summer at Irvine Valley, this is summer 2025, you're hosting these meetings like on Zoom for about 3 hours,
Hmm.
where students basically you're doing a big Zoom meeting and you're going through all the different parts, right? And it's really kind of creating an atmosphere of really like learning the material by much more like a hands-on and kind of a much more like an interactive type of feedback.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, everything is done live on Zoom.
Okay.
We do have the recordings, so you can go back
Okay.
and watch. So all the classes are recorded,
Right.
so you can go back and watch the recordings. And
Right.
in case there was something that you want further clarity on and just want to review. And I like to have a lot of interaction, so we try to have as much fun as we can. It's
Right.
it's taxes, so
Yeah.
fun fun depends on your definition of fun. But we try to have a lot of interaction in class, and there's a lot of back and forth. So there's
Right.
a lot of questions from the students. I try to encourage a lot of questions. I like to have an open class where we have, you know, where we have a lot of interaction.
But by the way, when you were at the Internal Revenue Service in your prior life or your current life, we don't know what's going on right now. But if we were looking at your prior life at the of teaching life at the Internal Revenue Service, when you were teaching, revenue agents, is there any kind of a different approach that you're using with your students now versus how you were training personnel at the IRS?
No, I actually use the same approach here. I tell my students that they're getting revenue agent training.
Okay.
The style of teaching, the style of teaching of using PowerPoints, examples, is exactly how revenue agents were trained. They're
Okay.
actually not trained through a textbook. They're
Right.
trained through what happens at the IRS is agents will create the PowerPoints. PowerPoints are reviewed by counsel.
Right.
And those PowerPoints are used to then go and teach the agents.
Right.
IRS doesn't actually use a textbook. So it's a very different style than what you see at most colleges or most it's I just on day one I always tell my students You're getting revenue agent training. You just don't realize
No,
that.
and this is, I mean, honestly, Stephen, what freaked me out when I did your observation, and I, as a department chair, have to go and observe our faculty, is that how you were running it. And I took 9 tax courses in my academic career through great instructors, but it was really until I saw how you were doing it. It's like, wow, this is amazing.
Oh,
You're basically trained, you're not training though, just to be really clear, we're not doing politicized IRS
no.
stuff. We're not banging down on doors. No, no, no. We're just teaching you how to understand the tax law by
Right.
using tax forms to better understand what the different parts are.
Right.
And
Exactly.
so we're going to have a few different videos like a little bit later on. But if you had any students, former students that have successfully taken the individual portion of the enrolled agents exam using your class solely,
Yes, I have actually.
that's awesome. Yeah. So I think for a lot of students, you definitely want to utilize the review courses like Lyme, Surgeon, but at the same time, I will bring these students on to kind of share their journey and onto the channel just to kind of talk about it. But if you're able to go through and to use, take this Stevens class or to take Accounting 206A, which is our individual class at IBC, you should be in pretty good shape in terms of preparation for the enrolled agents exam.
Yeah, well, and how I explain it is it's just like studying for the CPA exam, right? You go to college, you take your foundational classes, and then you can supplement it through review courses
Right.
as well. So, but you need the basic understanding of how taxes works, which you get in a classroom environment, and then you can supplement for the exam by taking the review courses, excuse me.
And then as far as, the other classes we offer, and then we, on our schedule at Irvine Valley College, we have 206A, which is individual income tax. We have Accounting 206B, which are individual tax, income tax, additional topics, which covers more of the parts which are covered on the enrolled agents exam. Because the enrolled agents exam is pretty comprehensive, like for every one of the parts, because you are going to have that ability to sign. By the way, when you become an enrolled agent, you're able to sign returns as a preparer, and you're also able to represent clients in front of the IRS.
Yeah, that's the big distinction between just having a PTIN and being an enrolled agent.
Yeah,
Because I mean, enrolled agent need a PTIN. That's one of the requirements. But anyone can prepare a tax return for a fee.
right.
I mean, there's a qualifier though in California. You need the CTEC
Mhm.
certification if you're gonna prepare tax returns in
Okay.
California. But if California you're exempt from CTEC if you're an enrolled agent. So
Yeah.
you don't need a CTEC certification. But what the enrolled agent does is it allows you to represent clients in front of the IRS.
Okay.
So if you just have CTEC and you're not an enrolled agent, you cannot represent people in front of the IRS. So
Okay.
California recognizes the enrolled agent. The IRS does not recognize solely the CTEC certification. So
Okay.
what do I mean by represent? Audits, responding to letters, entering into collections agreements with the IRS, known as stallment agreements. So any type of negotiation or representation with the IRS. So in addition to preparing tax returns as an enrolled agent, you can represent your clients in front of the IRS.
Now, often the one other thing, the kind of distinction that I'd also would want to make as well is like in the eyes of the Internal Revenue Service, a CPA and an enrolled agent are pretty much viewed the same, correct?
Actually, it's enrolled agent, CPA, and attorneys are
Right, but,
all
I think that with attorneys, there's one caveat, which is the attorney-client privilege, right? There is,
right. Yes, attorney-client privilege, which you
okay,
do not have as an accountant or enrolled agent. Don't worry
correct.
about it. But in terms of for the IRS, in terms of representation,
Okay,
enrolled agents, CPAs, and lawyers are all exactly the same.
okay,
They all have the same stature. So there's no hierarchy where an attorney can do more with the IRS than a CPA can do, than a CPA can do more than an enrolled agent. It doesn't work that way. Enrolled agents, CPAs, and lawyers all have equal representation in front of the IRS. So they can all do the same thing with IRS officials, IRS agents, representatives.
And then in terms of when you're looking at the other classes that we offer at Irvine Valley, which are the business taxation courses, which is 207A and 207B, you have like the same sort of teaching philosophy with regards to those classes as well. I mean, it's like an open Zoom,
Right.
really trying to get that interaction kind of going through using PowerPoints, using different, other types of things to get the student engagement going.
Exactly. And my favorite story is I had a student who came and I've had her multiple semesters, but our first semester, she wrote to me and she said, "I'm petrified of taxes. I'm scared of taxes." This was the first week. I'm taking taxes because my job asked me to take tax classes, but I'm scared of taxes. I don't understand it. I'm scared of it. And I said, you know, take it easy. Just hang in there. And by the end of the semester, first of all, she was one of my top students, and she ended
Right.
up taking all my tax classes.
Wow.
So it wasn't she started with 206A, which is our basic
Right.
individual, and then she took the advanced individual, she took the business, she took the advanced business.
It's
So
awesome.
so she went from being petrified of taxes and to really, really enjoying it. So that's one of my favorite stories.
Those are the best stories. So let's see. And so the last class we have in terms of enrolled agent exam preparation is the tax policies and procedures course. And then do you consider of that of like the different, and obviously you're teaching it the same way, which is through live Zoom, of the different parts of the enrolled agents exam or of that material, like which one do you consider to be the most challenging? Do students have the most challenging with the business one, with individuals, or with tax policies and procedures? What do they seem to have the biggest challenge with?
In terms of the enrolled agent exam,
Mhm.
from discussions with different service providers, because they keep track of the pass rates,
Right.
the um, the policies and procedures has the highest pass rate.
Okay.
Then it goes individuals, has a second
Okay.
highest pass rate. The exam that generally people consider the most difficult is the business one.
Because it contains the partnerships, S
The,
corps, C corps, it's everything. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
yeah, and I call that the quirky part of the exam.
Okay.
Because S Corp, partnerships, you got to come take our 207 series, so
There
you'll
you
learn the
go.
difference. But what we affectionately call the IRC Corps, where everybody, the rest of the world calls Corps. So C Corps, S Corps, partnerships, especially S Corps and partnerships, are quirky.
I,
So, and that's the part that's the exam that people seem to have the most difficulty with, but it still has a pretty decent pass rate,
okay.
which so what I've been told from we have agreements with different service providers, IVC,
Okay.
to arrange for discounts in case they want to take a review course.
Right.
And one of the service providers told me was even it it that even with the part two, which is the business, still has I believe he said it has approximately something like a 70% pass rate.
Wow. Okay. So it's definitely doable.
Yes, it's definitely doable.
And Stephen, I don't know if you've had like, so one of the things I see at like a lot of other community colleges, and this is really something that's kind of it's a difficult discussion just because it's like at other colleges where you have like your class is considered to be synchronous because you have like the live lecture component,
Right.
right? There are also like a lot of courses for tax that are asynchronous, meaning that you would buy a book, you would be utilizing the book to, kind of go through and to complete the work. Have you had any students that were taking asynchronous tax courses and then they came to your class and they said, wow, this is just so different than a traditional tax course online? Or what kind of feedback have you had with regards to that?
Yeah, I've had students who've taken courses at other colleges,
Okay.
asynchronously, and they said that they had difficulty learning.
Okay.
Taxes, taxes is it's not a type, it's not a topic that, at least in my opinion, because this is all my opinion, in my opinion, that you can learn on your own.
Right.
Because how tax code is structured, and what I explain on day one of all my courses, is all the code sections have a basic theme to them. And the
Okay.
basic theme is everything everything has a general rule, then
Right.
you have an exception. You have to figure out if the exception applies, you have to apply the exception. If the
Right.
exception doesn't apply, you have to apply the general rule. So, and that is and that's a hard concept to learn. So when you're learning taxes on your own, you're getting thrown all these general rules, all the exceptions, and you have to basically learn on your own. Okay, when does the exception apply?
Right.
And when does general, and just even that whole mindset of textbooks, in my opinion, I mean, it's been a while since I went to college, but I don't think textbooks get into that whole concept of, and what I explain to my class is every tax question, and regardless of whether it's a my class, the CPA exam, the roll agent exam, all have to be approached in the same manner.
Yeah.
What's the general rule? You need to know the general rule. Does an exception apply? Well, you need to know the exceptions. If the exception applies, what's the exception? If exception doesn't apply, apply the general rule. And you, and when you're teaching yourself, taxes is just very difficult. So I've had students who've taken asynchronous at other colleges, and they were ready to give up. And they want to be a enrolled agent, but they just could not learn. They just could not learn it. And they came and took our classes at IBC, and they were very happy.
That's good. That's awesome. Okay, so Stephen, thank you. I think what we're going to do now is we'll go ahead and break, and then we will get to the next part.